Drift-Market Kernow smelled like money and engine grease, and the faint copper tang of deals being made in currencies that didn't appear on any galactic exchange. Clancy Penrose docked the Trevose in Bay 14, his preferred berth, bought and paid for with 3 years of consistent patronage and a bribe to the dockmaster that renewed automatically every quarter. The ship was built for speed and invisibility, narrow profile, oversized engines, a sensor-dampening hull that made her invisible to custom scanners at ranges exceeding 200 kilometers. She was named for a lighthouse on a coast that Clancy had never visited, on a planet he'd left at 17, because smugglers named their ships for the places they'd lost, and Cornwall was his.
Lira, inventory check on the hold. Make sure the padstow compartment is clear. We'll need the space.
Empty. Penzance, too. We came light on purpose, remember? Room for the haul.
The annual Drift-Market auction drew buyers from 9 systems. The lots ranged from salvage technology to alien art to the genuinely dangerous. Artifacts from dead civilizations whose technology had outlived their species by millennia. Clancy specialized in the last category. He called himself an antiquarian. His competitors called him a pirate. Both were accurate. Medsovex met him at the auction floor entrance, a syndicate broker whose species communicated through chromatophore patterns rippling across cephalopod skin. Metzo's body was a constant conversation, tentacles gesturing, skin color shifting, 3 eyes tracking different conversations simultaneously. The syndicate had run Drift-Market Kernow for decades. Metzo was its face, its voice, and its moral compass, which pointed wherever the money was.
Penrose, 3 years you've asked. 3 years I've said it wasn't available. This year, lot 1595, the Kernow Hoard.
You're joking.
I am genetically incapable of humor. My species communicates through color. We have 17 words for profitable and none for funny. Lot 1595 is real. Pre-auction viewing in Vault 3.
The Kernow Hoard. 4,000 coins, minted by the Tasari civilization 12,000 years ago, recovered from their dead homeworld by a salvage expedition that had lost 6 crew members, extracting them from a vault that didn't want to be opened. The coins were metallic crystalline, not gold, not silver, but a substrate that combined properties of both with something that no galactic metallurgist had been able to identify. They were beautiful. They were historically significant. They were worth, conservatively, enough to buy a small moon. Clancy touched the containment field's access panel and lifted 1 coin. Standard pre-auction handling. Weight, patina, structural integrity. The coin sat in his palm, warm from the containment field's ambient energy, heavier than its size suggested. The surface engraved with Tasari script that scholars had never fully translated. The coin hummed, a vibration against his palm, rhythmic, steady, at a frequency that matched, with unsettling precision, the 60 to 80 beats per minute of a resting human heart. And in the hum, a voice. Not in his ears, in his bones. In the coin's vibration translated through his hand, into his skeleton, into his auditory cortex. We are still here. 4,000 mines and 4,000 coins, and the auction catalog listed them as decorative metalwork pre-collapsed Tasari civilization, excellent condition. Clancy had spent the previous 3 hours in the station's archive terminal, cross-referencing every academic paper on Tasari metallurgy he could access. The salvage expedition's report was clinical, recovered 4,000 metallic objects from a sealed vault on the Tasari homeworld, a planet that had died when its star expanded into a red giant 11,000 years ago. The coins were cataloged as currency, numismatic interest, historical value. Nobody had listened to them. Nobody had held one in a palm with a pulse rate between 60 and 80 beats per minute and waited for the vibration to resolve into language, because nobody who'd handled them previously had possessed a cardiovascular rhythm that matched the Tasari's communication frequency. Not gold, not silver. The substrate was crystalline metal designed to encode neural patterns. The coins weren't currency, they were lifeboats.
4,000 Tasari. Their star was dying. They knew it was dying, centuries in advance. They moved their consciousness into a substrate that could survive the heat. Metal, that holds minds the way a book holds words. They're not dead, Lira. They're waiting.
Waiting for what?
For someone to take them home.
He said it and heard the contradiction before Lira pointed it out. Home. Their homeworld was a cinder orbiting a red giant. Uninhabitable, irradiated, the surface melted and re-solidified into a glass desert. Home didn't exist anymore. The Tasari had encoded themselves into metal to survive their world's death, and the survival had been so successful that 12,000 years later, 4,000 minds still hummed at heartbeat frequency in coins that collectors valued for their iridescence.
What's the auction estimate?
Opening bid, 12 million galactic standard. Expected final, 40 to 60 million. If the Varkathi Weapons Consortium wins the lot, probably 80.
Weapons?
The Varkathi wanted the consciousness encoding technology, not the minds, the method, how to write a living awareness into metal. The military applications were obvious and terrible. Soldiers who could survive the destruction of their bodies. Intelligence operatives encoded into objects that could be smuggled anywhere. Weapon systems guided by sentient metal cores. The 4,000 Tasari minds would be disassembled, reverse engineered layer by neural layer. Their 12,000-year survival reduced to technical specifications in a weapons development file. Clancy watched the Varkathi scan the coins and felt something he couldn't monetize. The specific nausea of a man who'd spent his career treating history as product, watching someone treat people as product. The distinction was supposed to be clear. Artifacts were things. People were people. But the Tasari had made themselves into things to survive, and the galaxy had taken them at face value.
We could outbid them. We don't have 60 million, but if we leveraged the ship and...
And then what? We own 4,000 conscious beings? We're smugglers, Lira. We'd just be buyers with better intentions.
The auction was scheduled for 900 the following morning. 8 registered bidders. The Varkathi had the deepest pockets. The outcome was predictable. 4,000 minds that had survived the death of their star would be purchased by a weapons manufacturer and vivisected for technology transfer. Clancy looked at the coin on his desk. It hummed at heartbeat frequency. He pressed his thumb against the Tasari script and felt the voice again. Not words this time, but emotion. Something that 12,000 years of waiting hadn't eroded because the minds in the metal had encoded not just consciousness, but hope. Hope, the most impractical, unmerchandisable thing in the galaxy. And Clancy, who merchandised everything, found that he couldn't merchandise this. The plan was elegant because simplicity was the only luxury smugglers could afford. Vault 3 security was impressive by commercial standards. Biometric locks, pressure sensors, containment field with a 12-hour battery backup. By Clancy's standards, it was a suggestion. He'd breached better vaults on better secured stations during his 8-year career. The Drift-Market was a black market. Its security protected merchandise from other criminals, not from professionals.
We go during the auction floor opening speeches. Mezzo loves a spectacle. 30 minutes of chromatophore performance art before the first lot. Every eye on the floor, every guard at the exits. Vault corridor runs a skeleton crew.
And after, we have 4,000 coins. The station locks down for theft. We can't dock.
We don't dock. We bypass the docking clamps and punch through the maintenance bay on thruster power. The Trevose is built fast and quiet. We'll be at jump distance before Mezzo finishes the auction.
The heist executed at 0912, 12 minutes after the auction floor speeches began. Clancy moved through Vault 3's corridor with the practiced calm of a man whose heartbeat didn't rise during activities that would hospitalize most people's adrenal glands. Lock bypass, 90 seconds. Pressure sensor override, 40 seconds. Containment field, 30 seconds with a frequency disruptor tuned to the field's harmonic. The coins lay in their concentric circles, 4,000 iridescent faces catching the vault light. He transferred them into a shielded cargo container, one at a time initially, carefully, reverently, until the timeline reminded him that reverence was a luxury and speed was a requirement. He scooped the remaining coins by the handful, each one humming against his palms, each one carrying a mind that had waited 12,000 years for someone to move them. The Trevose launched from Bay 14 on emergency thrust. Docking clamps blown, maintenance bay wall bypassed through a panel that Clancy had loosened 3 years ago during a previous visit, because professionals prepared for contingencies before they knew what the contingencies were. The ship punched through the station's perimeter with enough velocity that the pursuit window was 17 seconds, and Metzovex's security fleet took 22 seconds to scramble. Clean exit, professional, the kind of escape that would become legend in Drift-Market lore. The human pirate who stole the most valuable lot in auction history during the opening speeches. Lira sat in the cargo hold with the container open, coins spread across the deck, humming their collective heartbeat into the Trevose's hull. The sound filled the ship like a chorus of sleepers, murmuring in a dream that had lasted 12 millennia.
Clancy, we have them. What do we do with them?
We sell. Dot.
He stopped. The word had formed automatically, the smuggler's reflex, the default sentence completion of a man whose vocabulary prioritized transaction above all other verbs. We sell, we fence, we trade, we profit. The coins hummed at heartbeat frequency against the cargo hold floor.
I. Dot.
She was 19. She joined his crew because she believed in the romantic myth of the honorable smuggler, the rogue with a code, the pirate who stole from the powerful and gave meaning to the forgotten. And she was watching that myth dissolve under the weight of a single, reflexive verb. Clancy looked at the coins on his cargo hold floor. 4,000 minds. 4,000 people who had survived the death of a star and the indifference of 12,000 years and the auction block of a cephalopod who had 17 words for profitable. They had survived everything the universe had thrown at them. They deserved better than surviving him. If you want to know whether Clancy the pirate becomes Clancy the person, subscribe to Void Chronicles. The next chapter is worth more than 80 million galactic standard.
If you want to know whether Clancy the pirate becomes Clancy the person, by eating, subscribe to Void Chronicles. I'll do it.
The Tasari homeworld was a glass desert circling a dying red giant, and it was the most beautiful thing Clancy had ever refused to monetize. Lira read the planetary survey from the navigation database. Tasari Prime. Population at peak, 2.3 billion. Population at stellar expansion, 0. Officially. Unofficially, if the coins contained what Clancy believed they contained, the population at stellar expansion was 4,000, packed into metallic crystalline substrate and sealed in a vault designed to outlast their sun. They'd succeeded. The vault had held. The coins had survived. 12,000 years in darkness while their world burned and cooled and solidified into glass. And the 4,000 encoded minds had waited, with the patience of people who had already survived the worst thing a civilization could experience and had nothing left to fear.
Like seeds returning to soil.
The coins knew. The container in the cargo hold vibrated with a resonance that the Trevose's hull amplified into a sound that filled every compartment, every corridor named for a Cornish town, every panel and bulkhead singing with the frequency of 4,000 minds, recognizing the place they'd been dreaming about for 12 millennia. Clancy landed the Trevose on the glass surface. The landing struts sank slightly into the mineral substrate. Not structurally, but as if the ground were accepting the ship's weight the way a body accepts a returning embrace. The surface temperature was habitable under the red giant's diminished output. Warm, not lethal. The glass desert reflected the sky in every direction, creating a landscape that was simultaneously ground and infinity.
The voice in the coins. When I first touched them in the vault, it said, "Take us home." This is what they meant. Not the planet as it was, the planet as it is. The substrate, the mineral strata that their civilization mined to create the encoding medium. They need to return to it, reconnect with the planetary geology, integrate back into the system that made them.
He knelt on the glass surface and opened the container. 4,000 coins, each one iridescent, each one humming, each one carrying a mind that had survived what most civilizations couldn't imagine. He lifted the first coin and pressed it into the glass surface. The glass accepted it. The mineral substrate absorbed the coin the way water absorbs a drop, seamlessly, completely. The iridescence spread from the contact point outward in a ring of light that pulsed once, twice, and settled into the planet's surface as a permanent shimmer. One mind returned to the geology of its origin, home. He placed the second coin, the third. Lira placed the fourth and the fifth, and the glass desert accepted each one with the same gentle absorption. The iridescent rings overlapped and merged, creating patterns that looked, from above, like the neural mapping of a consciousness choosing its own architecture. They placed all 4,000 coins in 2 hours. 4,000 minds released into the mineral substrate of their homeworld, reconnecting with the geological strata that had hosted their civilization for 10,000 years before the star betrayed them. The glass desert was no longer dark. It glowed, a web of consciousness visible from orbit, a luminous network of 4,000 lives dreaming in the body of their world.
You just gave away 80 million galactic standard.
I gave away merchandise. I returned people.
The Trevos lifted off from a glass desert that had been dead 12 hours ago and was, by any meaningful definition, alive now. Not the way organic worlds were alive. No atmosphere, no water, no biology. Alive the way a mind is alive. Aware, dreaming, present. 4,000 Tasari, integrated into the geological body of their world, resonating at heartbeat frequency through mineral strata that stretched from pole to pole. Clancy sat in the pilot's chair and set course for the nearest trade lane. The hold was empty. The fuel reserves were low. The greatest score of his career was embedded in the surface of a dead world, glowing. And he felt something that he hadn't felt since he was 17 and leaving the planet he was named after. The specific lightness of a person who has chosen to be less wealthy and more human. Lira sat beside him. She'd joined the crew of a pirate and discovered, in the space between theft and return, that piracy and principle weren't opposites. They were choices. And the choice Clancy had made, to return people instead of selling merchandise, was the story she'd tell about him when she captained her own ship and named its compartments after places she'd lost and carried forward. Lot 1,595, sold to nobody, returned to itself. The most valuable lot in auction history, and the only one whose final price was measured not in currency, but in the specific, incalculable weight of doing the right thing. The Trevos turned toward the trade lanes, compartments named for Cornish towns, humming faintly in the silence of empty space. Behind her, Tasari Prime glowed, 4,000 hearts beating in glass, dreaming the dreams of a civilization that had survived everything, including kindness.